You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, they say that. They like so I feel like my professors like they would say that, but then they would be like, but everyone like but this semester we have a higher than average, exam scores, so I'm probably not going to end up curving. And I know I had one of my professors who he said like on the last day of class, like he was like someone asked him, okay, what should we do to prepare for the exam? He was like, okay, if you know everything from the lectures and the homeworks, you're probably going to get a 70. That's probably the best you can do. He's like, if you've been reading the textbook and doing all the examples at the end of all the questions at the end of the chapters, then you have a shot at an A. And we were all And we're recording. All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 23 of the Winston Boys podcast, exploring wealth, science, and wisdom through philosophical debates. My name is Kush.
And I'm Alex. And today we're going to talk about a few different things. For one, we're going to kind of do a brief segment on what reopening of society is like and what that kind of means. And how is that kind of going along? And then the other thing I wanted to discuss, we want to discuss today is how does the final grades oftentimes in college are kind of weird, where like a professor has one grade up on their website, right? And it looks like, for instance, I had a class that was like, looked like I was going to get a B. And then the professor, the last second, without telling anyone he curved, and in fact saying he didn't curve, all of a sudden must have bumped everyone up by like 10 points. And like, I don't know, we just kind of wanted to talk about like, how could professors kind of communicate more clearly? Because I think we've both been annoyed by that in the past. And then we also kind of have a little electoral kerfuffle debate to have, where basically there's a lot of rural secession movements this year. So like certain counties in Washington want to secede to Idaho, and because they're like conservative and they don't feel like they fit in with the rest of the state's politics. Likewise, there's a large portion of California that wants to secede and become New California, or I shouldn't say a large portion. There's a prominent group in California that wants California to divide into like Democratic population centers along the coast, and then rural conservative like centers everywhere else in the state. So anyway, yeah, you got anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, other thing to watch out. I think the two of us have some sort of delay on our internet connection, so we might be talking over each other
Yeah, I'm not
some
currently
of
in
the
my
time here.
usual location here, so
Yeah, it also could be on mine. I don't know. We just don't know.
okay. So I guess I've I'm currently at the beach, and so funny situation, and no one's wearing a mask, and I'm sure not everyone's vaccinated. But like I've seen like maybe a couple hotel employees half-heartedly wearing a mask part of the time, and then everyone else is like, screw that, which is like kind of strange. I don't know. It's like really, I didn't expect such a huge shift, but it's like the Biden administration really just like flipped the switch, where like I go into a grocery store and 3 or 4 weeks ago everyone was wearing masks, and now there's like one or two people wearing masks, and most of the employees are like wearing their mask, but they're not actually, like they have like their mouth out or something, and they're just like making sure the supervisor doesn't see them.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
actually I went to Walmart earlier this week, and I actually saw that too. Like in like one of the Walmart super centers. Like I walked in with no mask. It was really it felt kind of weird. And then but yeah, I saw the same thing where like the employees were wearing them as like chin diapers, not masks. So
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's kind of strange, honestly, how quickly things have flipped. I didn't expect that. And I have to say, there's no way all these people are vaccinated. That's what's a little bit concerning to me. It seems like,
yeah.
people who don't want to get the vaccine are not inclined to wear a mask unless they're required to do so, um, which is kind of strange. I don't know. What do
Yeah.
you, what do
I
you, I
mean,
don't
yeah,
know.
we
What
we
is your
we
take on
kind of
that?
talked about it. We kind of talked about it last time. I mean, it's like everyone had an opportunity, I mean, if someone gets it and they didn't get vaccinated, I don't know. I mean, it's like we've get like there's been enough of an opportunity to protect yourself. Like at this point, if you're really scared, just stay inside and don't leave. You know,
No,
like
I totally agree. And I guess another point here, aside from the personal responsibility argument, which I'm honestly totally okay with, is that like it seems like a perfectly good counter argument here is like, okay, as a vaccinated person, right? I think it's super unlikely that like I would contract severe COVID if I were exposed to it. And in fact, I think it's really likely that if I were to be exposed to COVID, it would only enhance my immunity. You know what I mean? Like at this point, um, like exposure to COVID may or may not actually be a bad thing for like people who are vaccinated. You know what I mean? Unless it's like a weird variant that bypasses the vaccine. It seems like a good way, instead of having like COVID vaccine booster shots that may or may not cover all the variant and stuff, right? Just being out in public and having regular exposure to COVID like you would to other germs, right? When it can't harm you, of course, right? Because you've been vaccinated, is like a different situation, and not necessarily like totally detrimental, if that makes sense. I don't know.
mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, for instance, I've gone to church a few times. I've been in crowded restaurants. It feels like I've probably been exposed to COVID. I don't know. There's plenty of COVID still out there. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know. Like, does it? If I were, I probably wouldn't know, right? Because 95% of the time with the vaccine I got, I'm good to go. You know, it doesn't matter. Like I wouldn't even show symptoms. So if I have been exposed to COVID, all it's done is been like, okay, body, like know how to fight this thing. You know what I mean? In the real world. And that, I don't know. It seems that at least for vaccinated people at this point, unvaccinated people not wearing masks isn't going to harm them. And it could actually have like a benefit in a sense, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, there's still, it's one of those things though where it's like no matter what you say, it's hard to keep everyone happy. Like I think someone commented on one of our TikTok videos the other day. And it was funny because I remember when we did the stuff about Elon Musk, we triggered a lot of anti-vax people. And then we basically said the opposite last episode, and someone commented on one of our TikTok videos, you do know that you can still get COVID and pass COVID even if have the shots, but you knew the risks, right? And it's like that was the video about should we end mask mandates now?
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's just super unlikely,
Yeah, but
right?
it's also
I
like
mean,
missing the point. Like it's like
yeah.
the point's not that you can still spread it. The point's that hey, everyone's had an opportunity to be protected. Like
Right. Like, yes, I know I can still pass the virus around, but you know, go get the shot and you won't have to worry about it.
yeah,
Right? Like there are plenty of appointments. They're handing them out for free pretty much. I mean, really, literally, I think in North Carolina it's totally free. Like at least that's what my doctor's office said. I got it for free. You know,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think it matters if you have insurance as far as I know. Like there's no reason. Yeah, but and again, I think that just being exposed to it is not a negative for people who have the vaccine and are like, you know, not immunocompromised or something. Yeah, so I also wanted to talk, I don't know, this semester I had a lot of professors who never mentioned, oh, I'm gonna, you know, at the end of the semester, I'm gonna look at how everyone's doing in the course and then adjust, you know, or, you
yeah,
know, if everyone flunks the final, I'll give a nice generous curve or something like that, right? You know, things like that. Except they did those things. You know what I mean? And they kind of acted like they wouldn't, which was like, I don't know. I feel like that adds stress. You know what I mean? Like in my Latin class, like everyone was just getting straight C's because we were translating Cicero, who's this super challenging author who just like doesn't like to use verbs and uses super long sentences, and it's kind of crazy. And so we were getting quizzed on that, and everyone was doing like bad. Like I was talking to people after class, I was like, "Hey, what'd you get on the quiz?" Like I did really bad, and they were like, "Yeah, I got a 65." I was like, "Dang, me too," you know, like. And like we've made it through 4 semesters of Latin classes at Wake, so like we figured we kind of knew what was going on. And you know, it's like it's kind of annoying because like I was not making the grade I got in the class, right? Like my grade significantly improved from my average, which is like weird, right? Like I did bad on the final, and somehow my grade went up by like 15 points. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. Did
You know
you
what I
guys
mean?
have the pass fail option also?
No.
Mm. We had a so I think another place where this kind of plays in. I'm sure there's other schools that had this too. We had like emergency grading at UNC for COVID, like the past 3 semesters, and so it's like you can pass fail any class, like literally any class, even if it's a degree requirement. And there's a grading scale where you have a pass, low pass, and a fail. Um, and so like if you're taking a class for a requirement, like in order to get a pass, you have to get a C. So if as long as you get a C or above, you get a pass and it counts for the requirement. Uh, but like if you get a low pass or fail it, it doesn't count. Um, but like I know like another place where this plays in is that like a lot of times like those professors like it seemed like you're doing really bad in the classes, and then at the end you realize like, oh, I could have gotten A, but I already pass failed the class, so it didn't end up mattering.
Yeah, that sounds like that situation's even worse, right? Because like if you're making a C in your class, you're gonna pass fail, and then they bump the whole class up 15 points. You would have made like an A or whatever, right? Like
Yeah,
that's annoying. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't know. We don't have that because UNC was not in person at all, right? Pretty much. I mean, there were a couple like labs and
yeah,
stuff that met, right? But pretty much the campus was shut down. But Wake was more or less fully operational. And so Wake kind of took a different approach that was like, yeah, sorry guys, but you're fully responsible for your grades again. And, in fact, they sent out a bunch of emails because people were cheating so much. And they sent out a bunch of, we have another video on that. They
yeah,
sent out a bunch of emails that was like, look guys, you got to stop cheating. Like we're like fully prosecuting people again. If you cheat, you're going to get kicked out. Like they were like,
yeah,
we know the pandemic's been hard, but like, that's not an excuse. And, like, maybe a few months ago we would have been sympathetic, but now we're like, if you cheat, you're getting the boot. You're gone. You're getting suspended at least. We're
yeah. Do
cracking down. It
we?
was kind of funny.
Yeah, we've gotten so many comments on that video. Like some people are like agreeing with us, which I think the people who have gotten like worse grades are the ones who are agreeing. They're like, yeah, all the people who got good grades are just cheaters and stuff like that. And then I think we have all the people who like got away with cheating and have good grades, and they're all like, if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying, and like these are just they're like, yeah, in
Yeah,
online school, you like everyone's cheating.
I don't know. It feels like it's a really bad system for enforcement, and it's inherently unfair. But hopefully, I mean, fingers crossed. I don't know. Have you heard anything about UNC's plans for next year?
I mean we're in person, or at least all our stuff says in person. I don't know about you guys.
Wake is supposed to be fully in person. We have a vaccine requirement. I don't know if you guys do, but we're all supposed to get vaccinated over the summer, which is fine. I'm already covered. Most people on campus were covered by the end. We had like almost no COVID cases after the first spike. We just had like a trickle. And so, yeah, hopefully we're back to normal. I mean, that's the idea. Hopefully, no masks or anything. I don't know. It sounds like they might want us to wear masks. I don't know how much compliance there'll be. I'm not particularly inclined to comply when Wake tries to be like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we know more than the CDC." Like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
why I
have any
was
authority.
surprised. Yeah, that's why I was surprised when people were commenting on some of the videos when we were talking about like, okay, now you can take off the masks. I'm the CDC said you don't need to wear them. Like what? Like what? I mean, I don't understand where people are coming from on that.
I'm very sympathetic to the claim that private business owners can say, "Hey, look, it's my establishment. This is my private property, my restaurant. If I ask you to wear a mask, wear a mask."
No,
Um,
I agree with
I feel
that.
with that. That's fine. Like if they're worried
Yeah,
about it, and like I'm happy to put one on. Right, I always carry one with me. But I mean, like at the same time, it kind of irritates me, right? Because when people do things like that. So I mean, maybe I'll just go somewhere else. Like I'm fully vaccinated. I'm not required to do that under any sort of government regulation. You're just asking me to do it as a private individual, which I guess is fine, but it's also within my rights to go somewhere else at that point. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I don't know. Especially if it's like annoying with whatever I'm doing, right? Like if I'm at the gym or something, like I mean, I haven't gone to the gym in a long time, but if I wanted to go to the gym and they were like, "Oh, you need to put a mask on," and they took down the street didn't want me to put a mask on, like wearing a mask while you're exercising is super annoying. And I had to do that before, and I did not like it. So like I would definitely go to the gym down the street, and I think that's like perfectly fair. I
yeah.
don't know.
Dude, that's
Um,
actually it's interesting for me. Like I don't know. Honestly, I feel like COVID has just kind of like opened up the opportunities for like working out outside of the gym for me personally, at least. because I feel like before, like I had just started with the gym. Like I was like doing my first routine I'd ever done at the gym, and then like all the shutdowns happened, and then I was forced to find stuff outside of it. And like I honestly I feel like I don't know if other people have had the same experience, but I feel like that kind of like forced me to get creative with my workouts. And like I feel like I've been able to find like more fun stuff. Like I like actually in 2 weeks from now I'm switching to like a boxing like heavy bag like centric workout routine. And like I probably never would have like done that if I would have just continued lifting and just picking different kinds of like lifting routines. So I don't know. I just thought I would throw it out there because we're talking about the gym.
Yeah, sorry. My dad's trying to clean out the fridge. We no, that's really interesting. Yeah, so to be honest with you, I think I've told you this. I mean, Kush and I used to work out back in the day in high school a little bit.
No, we nah, don't
A little bit.
don't call
Come
what I
on,
did working out. Dude,
we
I
had
had
a
there
we
was
had a time. We had a time.
we went like four. I mean, okay, not we. I went like what maybe 4 or 5 times. Had no routine, had no goals.
No, we
Didn't
went.
go
We got to the point where
consistently.
we were going like three
Didn't
times a week, or at least I was. I don't know. Maybe you
I
didn't
don't
come all
think
the
I
time.
was, but I didn't have nutritional plan. Didn't have anything. Like
Yeah,
I don't consider for me. I don't consider what I did then working out at
yeah.
all. I think I consider it dicking around in in the
I
gym.
mean, it's better than doing nothing.
Yeah,
But like, I don't know. I overall, like my overall experience with gyms, I don't want to say. Overall, like my experience with gyms has been like not. I don't know. I just don't like it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just I like running so much more. Um, it's just I really like just being outside and stuff when I do. I don't know. It's this just a big no competition from me. Like I get so bored in the gym. So like I
yeah.
don't know. I guess I've had kind of an advantage in COVID because I haven't had to worry about that. I just go outside and go for a run and I'm happy.
Oh yeah. And
So
I
that's
think
kind of
too, even in the gym, like I remember like when I was there, like I remember my initial plan was that like first I was gonna build strength and then I was gonna switch to something like more bodybuilding like later on. And so
hmm
like for the my plan for the first 12 months was to do this thing called strong lifts, which is like a beginner like powerlifting like routine.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember like the only reason that one was fun is because like it's literally like you're trying to increase your number on like every power lift. So like squat, bench press, deadlift, overhead like lift, like barbell row, like all that stuff. Like you're trying to increase the amount of weight that you can lift. And like
hmm
your goal is every time you go to the gym, you want to increase it by 5 pounds. And like if you fail at a certain weight, 3 times in a row on a certain exercise, then you drop down like I think it was like 20 pounds and then work your
Right.
way
Right.
back up. But like that to me, that was what was fun about the gym was that like you had like it wasn't just oh let me go and like pump this like weight like a million times. Like it was like you had like
A
a
goal.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that does sound kind of fun. But I don't know. As I've gotten I want to say as I've gotten older, I'm not very old yet, but like I guess as my school workload has increased over the years and gotten more difficult and stuff, like exercise has become less of like a competitive thing for me and more of like I don't know, I was super competitive in high school and like, I went to regional and state meets and stuff, and the team actually won across a couple of state championships. I didn't have a whole lot to do with that. I didn't score any
Yeah.
points at the state meet or anything, but
You
like it
didn't
was
really.
a
You were like the track star, right?
no,
Or on cross country.
for like one season, I was the fastest distance runner on the team, but that's because the team wasn't very good that season because all of our seniors quit or transferred.
Mhm.
But and no, I mean, I was never the dominant for any significant period of time. Only for that one season.
Oh,
Where I was
I
like,
always thought that you were like the all star on like the cross country. I mean,
no, no,
I
no,
don't know.
no,
I
no,
didn't
no.
know
I
anything
was just
about
like,
it. So
no, no, no. I was like, gosh, let me think. I was like usually top five until my senior year when I was top seven because all of a sudden we had a bunch of really fast freshmen that kept beating me.
hmm,
So I
that's
was
still
like,
really good
hey, it was fun.
for.
It was a really awesome time. I really enjoyed it, and I still enjoy running a lot. Like it was a really, really valuable experience. But yeah, no, I was by no means a dominant runner. I was pretty not like a good high school runner, definitely not good enough to compete on any meaningful level on a collegiate level. Like I couldn't have gotten anywhere to run. I might have been able to walk on like a D2 school if I'd trained really hard and hadn't gotten injured, but I didn't train that hard and got injured. So, um,
Hmm.
but no, I mean, I don't know. As I've gotten older, it's more like, oh, I just want to like take a break and go for a run. It's not like oh, I'm going to go be super fast, or like, oh, I'm going to go run a 75-minute half marathon, or not 75, 85, I guess. Or, it's more like, oh, well, I just want to like get out of my dorm today and like, take a break from doing math. And like, that's nice for me. I don't know. It's like a
Yeah.
really good break. I don't know. It's just kind of funny I guess I've mellowed as I've aged, so to speak. But I don't know. It used to be like, oh, can I break 450 this season? And now I'm like, damn, I really just want to go for a run and have a good time. Um,
Yeah.
anyway,
I think and the other thing too, I think it's like it's also kind of like your like I feel like if you set like whatever your goal is, whether it's like aesthetic or whether it's like just improving like your general health or like whatever, like I think just like working doing some sort of exercise at least 3 times a week for an hour, like on like fixed days at fixed times, like it's kind of like your backbone for like motivation. Like there's weeks
oh,
too.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's like weeks where like you feel less motivated and like maybe with schoolwork or like outside projects and stuff, like you're getting less done. But it's like, hey, like I still went to the gym this week. I still have it in me. I still have the willpower to do shit I don't like to do. So let me keep
Absolutely.
going.
Yeah.
So
And it's just, I don't know. I find it so relaxing too. Like, I think yours sounds a little bit more, perhaps more strenuous, than
yeah,
mine. Cause I just kind of go and chill.
I mean, it's like I like it's one of those things that's like you're awake for like 112 hours a week, I think, if you get 8 hours of sleep. And working out for an hour 3 times a week is only 3 of those hours.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
still pretty light.
I like to go like at least 5 or 6 times if I can. Sometimes if I'm having a busy
Mhm.
week, I won't. Or if my allergies are really bad, if it's just a nasty day out. But yeah, so I did kind of want to talk though about this kind of weird trend right now, if you don't mind changing the topic here.
Oh yeah, sure.
And so we've got this weird,
I
I
will
don't know what
mention
to
though,
call it.
really
Yeah, go
quick.
ahead. Sorry.
We are so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you kind of like see the whole thing on your end.
Hmm.
I was just gonna say in terms of time, we are only like 18 minutes in.
Okay.
So, but I don't
Um,
know how we want to.
that's fine. I mean, like I
Yeah,
said, I don't want to, like everyone's kind of waiting on me today. So I want to kind of
yeah.
go speedy. But yeah, we can, let's see, what were we talking about? Um, yeah, I guess we could talk about a little bit more about the professor thing. Because I did kind of want to make the point, like, I don't know. I think it's kind of strange when a professor gives no indication that they're going to curve, and then they do anyway. You know what I mean? Like as you said, it gives like I mean, especially in a pass fail situation, right? But it's also like stressful. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I don't know. It seemed like if everyone in the class is doing bad, just be like, hey, like if you guys collectively can't figure this out, like I'll probably give some sort of adjustment for the class. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like it feels like that wouldn't be that hard to do. Um, and then that okay, well I'm probably doing a little bit better than I think. You know what I mean? Or like then the
Yeah.
percentages indicate. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, they say that they like so I feel like my professors like they would say that, but then they would be like, but everyone like but this semester we have a higher than average exam scores, so I'm probably not going to end up curving. And I know I had one of my professors who he said like on the last day of class, like he was like someone asked him, okay, what should we do to prepare for the exam? He was like, okay, if you know everything from the lectures and the homeworks, you're probably going to get a 70. That's probably the best you can do. He's like, if you've been reading the textbook and doing all the examples at the end of all the questions at the end of the chapters, then you have a shot at an A. And we were all freaking out, like super stressed out. Like I, sacrificed like studying for my linear algebra exam to put more time
Oh
into this
no.
one. And like I went to the exam and it was literally, except for maybe 1 or 2 questions, it was all questions similar to ones on the previous exams. And so I was just like, yo, like, why would you say that? Like, you get like us all so like freaked out.
Yeah, I think some professors do things like that to like make you study harder. Um, and like I don't like that because it seems like it's disrespectful to your time. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I think that professors should kind of go in assuming like, okay, this guy, like the for instance, physics majors, right? Like our comp sci majors, like it's a difficult, field. Just assume we're all on board and we're all doing the best we can. And we have multiple classes to juggle. And if you're going to make the exam, like just give me an accurate representation of what's going to be on the exam so I know how to prepare. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
don't be like, oh, you need to know, all these things you don't need to know. Because then I'm going to take time away from a different class to learn that. You know what I mean? When I could have done another class. Like, I don't know. I think I've talked to you about this before, but my quantum professor this semester was awesome because he told us exactly what would be on the exams. He was like, there's going to be, we covered three things this semester. There's going to be one problem from each of the three major like topics we covered. And they're going to be like the basic problems, right? And the basic problems are hard. It's not that, but
Yeah.
like, like it's still a difficult class, but if you understand the major topics of what's going on here and you can do like the problem, like a given problem from each of those sections that was like in the homework, then like you're good. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, okay, well, I think I'm good. Like I'm gonna study for it. I'm gonna make sure I know the concepts because he does a conceptual like kind of section. But like he's not like, oh yeah, you need to know how to do all these crazy, things and come up with your own perturbation for this, quantum particle and this and that. And I'm like, dude, like that would be rude. You know what I mean? Because then I'd be like stressing out and not preparing for my other classes. So I don't
Hmm.
know. I think that that's kind of I guess, I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
fair. It just seems like it's not very considerate. I don't know.
Oh yeah, dude. I think my linear algebra my linear algebra professor did the same thing, but he took it a step further, where he literally had like he was like, okay, so these are all the questions on the exam, like not like the actual questions, but he was like there's this number of questions in like
Yeah.
the multiple choice, there's this many in the short answers, there's this many, and then like the long answer, there's this many, and then he said what the topic was for each question, right?
Hmm.
And so when it came to the short answer and long answer, like it was literally like, okay, you're gonna have one question where you need to figure out the different like bases. You're gonna have one question where you need to walk through the QR factorization algorithm. You're gonna have one question where you need to do least squares and stuff like that. And like literally question by question, he told us everything that was going to be there. But it's like, even with that, like you still have to learn it, but it just takes the pressure off of like where
Yeah,
stuff's going to
totally.
come from.
Because then you're not like looking through the textbook and guessing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm like playing pin the tail on the donkey or something, trying to figure out what's going to be on the exam and like, which questions I need to practice. It's like,
Hmm.
if when they give like a good idea, that's so helpful. I don't know. And it's not like I don't know the material from the class then, it's just like I have an idea of what to expect. I don't know. It seems like a pretty reasonable thing to ask for. Um, how are we doing on time here?
We're about 24. Honestly, if you have to get up in the middle, like I can just cut it again.
Okay.
It isn't really,
Well,
it's
we can
not really
just
a big deal.
okay. We can just keep going. Because I think actually it's kind of nice. I think we've got the new room key and everything, but I'm just gonna finish out and then I can move when I'm done. So that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that's like nice, and also I think my family's moved to the other room, so like now it'll be quiet in here.
Yeah, it wasn't
um.
loud, so it was
Okay.
already
Good. Good.
fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I wasn't sure how much it would pick up because people were moving stuff. Okay. So yeah, we talked about that. I think we can talk about because I think this will be a pretty long section. There's a lot we can say here.
Hmm.
So do you want me to just? I guess I'll just kind of go through and introduce the topic here. And that'll kind of be a little lecture, I guess, because it's kind of a specific, and of course, give reactions or whatever. But
Yeah.
okay. So basically, the next kind of section here we wanted to talk about is there's been a bunch of conservative, I'm going to call them inter state secession movements. It's kind of weird to say. But basically, the idea is there are a lot of rural areas in very liberal states like Washington and California and stuff like that. And these rural areas feel like they don't really belong politically with the rest of the state, right? Much like Austin and Texas, for instance. Right? That's like a liberal analog. But for instance, you have California, by like a lot of the counties are heavily conservative, and a lot of the states heavily conservative. It's just that the coastline is like super liberal, and most of the people live in the coastline. But like when you look at like a county map, a lot of California is very red. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And similarly, you have places, of course, there's the blue analogs and North Carolina and even Alabama, right? And you look at Alabama and there's a big old blue stripe right across the middle of the state. But so recently, especially after the last election, there's been a lot of movements to separate out the rural constituents from the liberal or the urbanized constituency of the state. So, for instance, you've got this idea called the New California idea, which is literally there's a proposition to basically amputate all the liberal population centers that have two-thirds of the state's population. It's kind of like a little strip along the coast, and have that be old California, and then have the rest of the state be New California. And the rest of the state takes about probably 80% of the land and about a third of the population, and would become its own split off state, so to speak, right? Likewise, there's the idea of the greater Ohio. Ohio. I keep saying Ohio. The greater Idaho idea, which is like certain counties in Washington want to split off from the state and become part of Idaho, because Idaho they feel is more in line with their political orientation, and they'd be better represented there. Is kind of the idea, right? Likewise, and here's what I want to emphasize about this. This is obviously a silly idea. And it's not going to happen. There's no significant support for this, but right, at least not politically significant. I mean, there's plenty of people who want that to happen, but it's not going to happen, clearly. But it seems to me that, for instance, it's not the motivations for it aren't wrong, if that makes sense. Like if you took the conservative population of California, it would be one of the largest conservative states. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like what is it? I mean, there's probably 15 million conservatives or so living in California. That's a really big state. That's like 2 North Carolinas. You know what I mean? And those people never get a voice, right? I mean, just like liberals in Texas never get a voice, right? They never get to vote. They never get heard on any national stage, right? Texas is not going to go blue in the immediate future, right? So I don't know. What's kind of your take on the situation? Because it's kind of funny that they are kind of crying for more representation in this rather drastic and dramatic way.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. I don't know if I hope this isn't political. I just think the whole like what's it called? The electoral college. Like I think it's just dumb. I think it's dumb that we still have it. Like I think it should, when it comes to like stuff on the national stage, I think it just makes more sense to have it be a popular vote.
Yeah, no, I mean
I don't know.
that's how I feel about it too. And that's what I think is really interesting to hear, because normally abolishing the electoral college is such a liberal like thing to do, right? Like that's something Democrats talk about a lot.
Yeah,
But
but
here
it
we've
just
got
doesn't make
like
sense. Like it just
no, I
it's
agree. I
like
mean, to me, it's not a political thing. It's like climate change
yeah,
or something. It's like it just makes sense to take certain measures here to, not destroy
yeah.
the planet. And I'm not saying that politically.
Yeah, like I don't like maybe one year like like the like Democrats end up deciding that their nominee is Bernie Sanders, and then the Republicans come back with like like maybe Andrew Yang decides to switch sides or something, and then it's
Hmm.
like I mean I'm sure that would probably sway the popular vote the other way, and I would still be I mean it wouldn't have like the whichever party would benefit from the electoral college going away wouldn't affect my opinion on it.
No, yeah, I
Like
totally
it's like
agree. And currently, I
yeah.
mean, I think we have to admit that would be Democrats, because Democrats almost always win the popular vote. Like I think the last like 7 of the last 8 elections or something, Democrats have won the popular vote nationally. And
Yeah.
they've only won about like half of the electoral college votes. But I mean, that's not the reason I'm saying it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like
And I
I
think that's
don't
what we're
yeah.
seeing here. I think that's the root of a lot of these state secession movements, is like, I think they want to be heard. You know what I mean? And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Like I think, look, California conservatives have a right to be heard, just like Texas liberals have a right to be heard on the national stage, right? And it's also kind of crazy because what is it? I mean, Wyoming has like the highest per capita vote power because they have like
Mm.
by share of the population, they should have like one electoral college vote, and they have three because of the rules and how it works. So like, Wyoming's are just like, super powerful.
Yeah,
Wyomingites? I don't know. What's the
I don't know.
denominator? I don't know what the denominator for people from Wyoming is. I'm sorry. Wyomingomians.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's all pretty dumb. Like, I think in like a national election, everyone should have the same voice. But then when you get into, oh, well, how much power should the federal government have? Then it becomes a political thing, which doesn't seem like people like hearing about that from us.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think this is necessarily about that though. I think it's about like, how does the federal government get chosen, so to speak? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that since it governs all of us, we should all kind of have a say, whether or not we're a conservative in California or a liberal in Alabama, right? We should all kind of get the same sort of weighted vote. That isn't like, it's government by the people, not government by the state. I don't know.
Yeah. It's actually pretty interesting. Like I sh- I'm going to preface this by saying I didn't watch the full interview whenever this happened, so I don't
Mhm.
have the whole context, but I literally just saw a clip. So maybe I should actually go back and watch it so I can bring this up in a future podcast. But Joe Rogan had an interview with one of these like political experts. I can't remember who it was or what their background was. What Anyway, I remember like they were talking about though how like looking at like the increasing polarization in America, they're like, this is the trend that you usually see before you get to a civil war. Like like when we look at history, and like even recent history and like in other countries, they're like, this kind of polarization is what you get before we get to a point of civil war. And like I
Yeah,
remember like Joe Rogan was talking, he was like, so what do you think the solution is to this polarization? I remember like in the clip the person was like, well, I think it's too far gone. Like I don't think there's any turning back at this point.
I think Joe Rogan is a little bit of a dingus. To be quite
Hmm.
frankly honest with you. I mean, okay, let's imagine civil war broke out today along political lines. How would that look? Like, are the farmers going to drive in and attack the cities? Like, we're not talking about, it's not necessarily along political divides here, right? It's not along state lines, right? It's not like Texas is 90% conservative and California is 90% liberal and they're going to go to war over it, right? It's like, you know, the cities of Texas would have to be at war with the farmers of Texas, and then like that would pretty much happen all over. Like there's red counties in every state. There are very red counties in every state, right? I mean, you go up to Pennsylvania. Look at Pennsylvania. There are counties that went 90% for, or not even 90. I think it was like 80 something percent for Biden, and then there are counties a few miles away that went 80 something percent for Trump, right? Um, and
Hmm.
it seems like that's not really a viable way to have war. Like there's no geopolitical boundary between the sides, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I
that's what
mean,
I'm saying. I don't have the full context, so I like
yeah,
I
I
probably
don't
should
know.
have the full context if
It
I'm
seems
gonna.
like and I heard something about he really put his foot in his mouth this past week. I heard because he was like saying some. I don't know. I saw him getting roasted on Reddit for like saying something about how like the white male is going to be silenced, and I was like, "What, dude? What are you talking about?"
Oh, Joe Rogan? Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
about that. I know he got in trouble. Like I know the big thing he got in trouble for on the internet a couple weeks ago. He was talking about how like when like young healthy people ask him if they should get vaccinated, he tells them like no, like you don't need it. I remember he got in trouble for that, and then he took it back like later on.
Yeah,
Like he
that's just
was like,
objectively not true. Like, I don't know. My
yeah,
1 in 1,000 chance of dying from COVID is like too high for me. I'd rather not have a 1 in 1,000 chance of dying given the choice. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. That just seems like a no-brainer to me. Public health concerns aside, all I have to do is get a shot. Doesn't seem that hard. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I did see that. It was definitely that's what it was. It was a clip of him talking about how like the white males being silenced in American society. And I was like, dude, what are you? Like, I don't know. He's like a lot of stuff he says I agree with, and there's a lot of stuff he says, and I'm like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. Like he seems to like hippity hop from like very middle of the line like good conversation to like some weird cringy like extremist view, and I'm like, I don't know this guy's saying.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with it. But yeah, no, I
I
mean,
mean,
I
I
think
think
that we're,
he's like I think what his strength is that like he like will very much like just adopt the view of the person that he's interviewing. And like it that might seem like a weakness, but I think the reason it's good is because like it makes the other person feel like really safe to like say what they actually feel. And so you end up getting like these experts or people who have like, like interesting experiences or
Mhm.
stuff like that. Like you get them to like open up and like really express their viewpoint and not try to, be defensive against like a host that's like being cynical and attacking them and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. I think that's not a terrible thing. At the same time, I think it's kind of the job of hosts to be like, call out their guests' bullshit. You know what I mean? Like if I come on, the Kush talk show and I'm like, yo, dude, I, just hate turtles. And you're like, whoa, hold up. Why you be hating turtles, dude? And I'm like, they eat babies. And you're like, wait, no, they don't. Right? That's not, there's a line between like, like you don't eat, like as the host, I don't think it's your job to be like, oh yeah, well tell me more about why you think turtles eat babies. Like,
Hmm.
it's not your job to allow me to spread some sort of clearly false, narrative on your show. You know what I mean? Like then you're just giving me a platform for saying ridiculous things like turtles eat babies when they don't eat babies, right?
Yeah,
um
I mean that's a fair point. I think yeah, and like I feel like if again I don't know Joe Rogan, but I feel like if you talk to him, you'd probably believe the exact opposite. Because like usually like I know when he had like Alex Jones on, like the Infowars guy,
oh my
like
god, he had
he
him on there. Oh boy.
yeah, and like when he was interviewing him, like Alex Jones would like he'd go out and say some stuff like like they're on Epstein's island, like eating kid. I don't know what he said, and
Eating
then
kids.
Joe Rogan does this like normal thing where he's like, so how does that work? Like what are they doing? And like he just asks questions, doesn't try to give an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't know. That it seems to me that that's giving some sort of credence that the guy doesn't deserve, because Alex Jones is kind of a prick.
It
But
is interesting. He's an interesting guy. There's that meme of him where it's from Joe Rogan's podcast. He's like, here's the thing. Actually, I probably shouldn't say the R word on here, but he's like, here's the thing. I'm kind of like, and then R word, the like autism.
yeah.
I can't say it because I don't know. I don't know where this is gonna. I don't know if 20 years from now someone's gonna hate me and try to dig up old videos of me and see.
Fishes run for president foiled by saying,
It might be. You don't know what the world's gonna be like,
"Oh,
or
no,
not
that's
not
too,
run for
that's
president,
well, that's the
but
problem, right? I mean, you say something homophobic 15 years ago on Twitter when gay marriage wasn't legal and everyone was homophobic."
and it was literally.
And
I
then it comes
remember.
up when you're fired from you lose your acting gig.
Yeah, that happened to Kevin Hart. Like
Yeah, and it's like,
back when gay jokes were just like a normal thing back in
yeah, I mean,
2010.
come on, dude. Like, no one thought anything of it at the time. He was totally, it's like
Yeah.
people don't want to, anyway, people don't want to.
He didn't even say anything that was like he didn't say like, oh, I hate gay people or anything like that. Like I remember like the joke was like he tweeted, he was like, if I ever catch my son playing with a dollhouse, I'm gonna like smash it over his head or something. And like that was the joke. And then he apologized for it a couple years later. And then he apologized for it like I think 5 years later. And then in like I can't when was it 2019 or 2017, whatever, he lost his Oscars gig because they wanted to make him apologize for it again. He said no.
Fair. Yeah, no, I mean, I think at a certain point you just be like, I'm not apologizing. Like, sorry, this is not happening,
Yeah.
dude. I think oftentimes like once you, that's the issue, right? Is like in the current climate, like once you apologize, you're just kind of screwed, right? Because like you're everyone's guilty of something at some point, and at this point, like you just have to like, I don't know. There needs to be a certain point where you say, I am not gonna be, like held accountable for everything I've ever said that wasn't bad at the time, if that makes sense. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of it's like a vague guiltiness, vague collective guiltiness.
Yeah.
It's like weird. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I think I think you're right about this whole. I mean, for one, also I just want to come back to that Joe Rogan thing again. I'm kind of mulling over his Civil War comment in my head. And
Yeah.
it's like
I don't
I
think
just
he
don't think.
was, I think in the clip though, I don't think he's the one who said it. I think his guest, what I'm saying is
Oh,
his guest
okay,
is the
okay.
one who said that.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the clip, but I gotta say, I mean, I just don't see that happening anytime soon. I could see America slipping into more, despotic form of government. Is that the right word? Despotic? Despotism.
No
I don't know.
idea.
Like someone's ruled by a more absolute ruler instead of a more traditional democracy, right? I could see, I think I could see negative things happening to America in the near future, but I can't really see a civil war because again, it's just not a like you would need to have like state lines, right? County lines are too small of a right. I mean, it wouldn't be state against state; it would be neighbor against neighbor, and that's too difficult to wage war on that scale. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
I mean, I could see like like large spread insurgency or like political cleansing. I don't know, like ethnic cleansing, except against like one party or the other. You know, violent cancel culture, so to speak. um, but I can't really see a widespread war breaking out because like again, like, what would it look like? Clemens against Winston? Like, come on, this is silly. you know, how would that play out? And then what? Half of Clemens is gonna join in on Winston's side, and a third of Winston's gonna join in on Clemens's side, and then like what is Louisville doing? Like I
Yeah.
don't know. It seems like that's just not really feasible. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. It's like there's no a civil war happened one time, and I don't think it's likely to happen again, right? And then where does Georgia join in? I don't know. It just seems like a bit of a nutty idea. That and the
Yeah.
military is so
And
strong. I mean, there would be no whoever got the military would win. You know?
yeah. And I think too with the state stuff, like I feel like the only reason that those like that like whole idea to like split off certain parts of states exists is because of like the electoral college. Like I feel like a lot of that could be eliminated by just getting rid of the
Oh yeah,
electoral
totally.
college.
Yeah, no, that's kind of my whole point with bringing that up. Is yeah, I mean, I think that right, like by further allowing people to participate on the national level without having to make them go through states, like we can just solve this whole issue. And I just think it's ironic because conservatives, like by and large, are so stoutly against doing away with the electoral college, but here they are, like at the same time, like, hey, I live in California and my voice isn't heard, and I'm like, yeah, I know it sucks, doesn't it? Like, your voice should be heard, California conservative dude, right? I don't know, like it's kind of the system's a little bit messy. It needs some serious changes, I think. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, you got anything else to add there? I don't know. I'm kind of.
Not
Oh,
really. I think
I guess.
there's a
Yeah, go
oh
ahead.
sorry.
Sorry. No, you're good.
I was gonna say I remember like Mr. Egan one time. The first time I actually heard about that whole idea was from Mr. I gotta beep his name out. Anyway, I heard it from from him. I remember when he brought it up, he was talking about how like he actually brought it up with the example of Austin, Texas, and how like every year there's a petition in Austin to secede from Texas, and then there's like a bigger petition for Texas where they're like, no, that's not going to happen, or they go to the Texas Supreme Court and they're like, nah, not this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's really there's no reason to allow that to happen. It's just not going to work. Um, I'm surprised it keeps going to the Supreme Court. That seems like a big waste of time.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it works, but something like that where people in Austin
Yeah,
try to secede and then they can't do it.
no, I'm sure. So I mean, I think also like, for instance, stuff like this would probably have a big impact on like the national politics and bring it more towards the center, right? I mean, I think that right now we see a lot of conservative extremism and liberal extremism because we have these big blue and big red states that can kind of say whatever they want to, and people are going to vote along party lines. You know what I mean? And I think a prime example of that is like um, AOC and Trump, right? Like, or by Bernie or something, right? Where like they're really saying things that aren't applicable to a majority of the American population at all, right? And who the majority of Americans disagree with. And I think a lot of people have echoed this, but a majority of Americans kind of feel sandwiched between the parties at this point, right? Where like, you know, there's not really a reasonable party. I don't know. Like a lot of people have been saying, like, well, I really wish there was like a third party or something that was like, just more calm, where like, not everything about American society is bad, and like, we're not just all like oppressive dicks, and at the same time, like we don't want to continue to be oppressive dicks. You know, and we aren't like blatantly racist. We just want to be like, like somewhere in between. And like, yeah, I think that abolishing the electoral college would force political parties to kind of appeal to those sorts of people more. You know what I mean? Because, then people who were on the fence in California, for instance, would matter, right? So, it wouldn't matter, like, for instance, Trump would have to broaden his appeal, right? Trump couldn't just be going after his white rural, swing state population, right? Like going after whatever cultural issues trigger them, right? He'd have to like go after a broader coalition of like, what are people who are more conservative throughout the nation looking for? You know what I mean? Like it couldn't be such a narrow appeal, like, oh, the immigrants are attacking us from the border, right? Like that doesn't ring a bell with that many Americans overall, right? But it rings a bell with people who may or may not vote for him in swing states, which is why it's like overall relatively effective, right? But I think that if you abolish the electoral college, that wouldn't be effective because the majority of Americans don't care that much, right? Like they don't feel that threatened by immigrants at this very moment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's like, how do you think that would kind of come across? I don't know. That's my view.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the same thing where it's like, like, yeah, like you said it, like they have to broaden their appeal if we get rid of the electoral college. But I mean, I feel like every time I watch the news, I've always thought about like running this experiment where like, what if like you just built like some sort of AI that analyzes like the very Republican like sources, like social media news sources and stuff, and then analyzes like the very like liberal like sources and like media and all that kind of stuff, and then it just produces like two like weekly newsletters, like one for the liberals, one for the conservatives, and then you just run it through like a spell checker, grammar checker to make sure it sounds all good. Maybe proofread it, maybe edit some sentences every week, just like some light work, and put it out there week after week, and then just see like how like does the followership just like grow exponentially because you're echoing the same stuff that's like being said, or are people like smart enough to see that you're just like repeating the same things?
I mean, I think that's one of the major issues is the echo chambership, and like I don't know, I actively try to seek out places that are more objective, but yeah, I mean, it seems like you have people like Tucker Carlson. I mean, what did he just say? Something about children who are wearing masks outside are being abused. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well,
Where, where do
to be
you get these
fair,
ideas?
they did say something similar on CNN one morning. Like there was like
Oh, did they?
they had like an not they didn't say abused, but they had like an expert on there, and like she was talking about how it's like dumb, and she's seen it with her kids too, where like they're like they go inside the school and it's like they don't have to wear masks like or something when they're in like the cafeteria or whatever. But she's like when her kids go and play like their baseball game and like her kid's standing like way in the outfield, like he's still standing out there wearing a mask, which doesn't do
Oh yeah,
anything.
no, that's totally stupid. Yeah, I agree. There's been so much like pseudoscience floating around with the COVID regulations, right? Like, the whole restaurants, you go to sit down at your table and you don't have to wear a mask and the restaurant's crowded, but you have to wear a mask in the waiting area. Like what's the point? Like
Yeah.
even if I get COVID in the waiting area, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get COVID in the dining area. Like, what's
Oh
the
yeah.
difference here?
Dude, I walked into like Sin, like that burger
Yeah.
place.
That place is
Yeah, I
great.
walked in I walked in there yesterday without a
Mhm.
mask, and it was first time being in a restaurant without a mask for since COVID. And it was like the weirdest feeling because there were some people who were in that like lobby area, which it was really packed
Yeah.
in that waiting area, but there were some people there wearing masks and then others not. And it
Mhm.
just you could feel the tension. Like it was just like it felt like there were two sides. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. At this point, I'm fully on the if you don't want to wear a mask, you don't need to wear a mask. And anyone who tells you you need to wear one, unless they're the owner of the business, has no reason like telling you to do that. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they got no claim on you at this point, right? Like I'm following the advice of the federal government. Don't blame me. Blame the CDC if it goes wrong. Okay, it's not my responsibility. Like,
Yeah.
I'm only following what the scientists are telling me, and that's all I can do. I'm not an epidemiologist. I can speculate,
Mhm.
but when it comes down to it, if the CDC says wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask. Otherwise, I won't. That's kind
Yeah.
of I think that's a very reasonable line to take. Um, anyway, I think I don't know. You think we're good for today. I think we kind of have you have
Yeah.
anything else to
Maybe
add?
maybe like 5 to 8-ish more minutes if we
Okay.
could. We could go.
Um, yeah, sure.
I don't know. Wasn't
I
there something?
just,
There was something after the. Was there something after the states trying to like split off into two states?
well, we
Or
kind of
was that the
talked
last
about
one?
we talked about the abolishing electoral college, how it would play out.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Let me think. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me think for a second.
I think one thing that might be
Yeah, go
kind of
ahead.
kind of cool. Uh, Actually, on the Joe Rogan stuff, I had an idea when we were talking about that. Maybe for like a future episode or something. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of compelling evidence out there, like around well, UFOs, but now that the government calls them like unidentified aerial phenomenon because UFO just made people think aliens.
Hmm.
Um, but there's a lot of like definitely BS stories out there. Like I saw some docu-series on Netflix. I think it was a couple of nights ago when I was going to sleep, and there was
Hmm.
some guy telling a story about how like when he was 17, a portal opened in his room and government employees walked in and grabbed his hand and took him to a moon base, and then he had some special DNA, so they asked him to join a task force on Mars, and he did research on Mars for 20 years, and then walked back through a portal and ended up in his room where he was 17 again. And like there's definitely those kinds of stories out there, but then there's also like very compelling evidence. Like there's two like videos that like the US military has released, where even like the commanders come out and say like, yeah, this craft that we were following, and you can see it in the video, like doing these insane maneuvers. It's like there is no propulsion technology that we're aware of that can do anything remotely close to this. Like going at like supersonic speeds and making like 90-degree turns and like stopping and starting and going from like 5 feet above the ocean to like through the clouds in like less than a second. And just like things that like these like the military has picked up that like we're like they're just like, okay, we don't understand this technology and we don't think any other country does either, which is why we're going to put this out there to see what people can figure out.
So, I
So
mean, here's what I've got to say about all this. From kind of a general, I haven't seen the clips, but let me just put this out there generally. So in order to fly between star systems, you have to be ridiculously advanced. Let me just start off with that. As in, like, you have to be a species that can cross unimaginably large distances. Okay. I mean, our fastest probes would take centuries to get to the nearest star. Okay. Um, Everyone on board would be very dead by then, not only from old age, but also from tons of radiation, right? Under no circumstances is humanity anywhere close to having a star like interstellar travel. Okay.
oh yeah, yeah.
Um, Certainly not manned, and certainly not on a human time scale that's reasonable. Um, and to have a interstellar traveler, right? you have to be very, very powerful, right, as a species, and have a lot of technology that we wouldn't understand. Um, and I would like to say that if they didn't want to be seen, they wouldn't be seen. And if they wanted us dead, they would have us dead. It wouldn't be like, like Independence Day, right? It would be like, what if instead of like, Europeans coming to like the Americas, right, with guns, what if they came with, you know, machine guns and jets, right? And just
Mhm.
like nuked the Incas. Okay, like
Or not
that's the
not even, yeah, not maybe like not even like Europeans go. I think it's more so like, well, again, I think
well,
there's
I'm
like
just trying to
different.
say like there's a huge technological disparity here. And like the
Mhm.
comparison would be like, what if a modern day military tried to interact with like a people who have like, you know, were well equipped with spears and bow and arrows and things like that, right? Like an intelligent civilization like the Inca, who did a lot of great things, were brilliant, and have absolutely no chance because the enemy has an F-15. Okay, like
Oh yeah, no,
like that's
that's
what it would
what,
be like. That's what it would be like.
yeah.
There's nothing we could do against a civilization that was traveling between star systems. We would just there's no anything we could do.
Oh yeah,
And
there's a,
they would never be detected by us if they didn't want to be detected.
so there, I mean, and again, I don't, I'm not gonna try to, I don't, I'm just talking about the evidence that I've seen, which
Mm-hmm.
again, like we could talk about it even like later. There's like just a lot of just compelling stuff out there that's really cool.
Sounds
But
like a great
but
podcast in the future.
Bob Lazar, there's a
Mm-hmm.
guy who he's like a former Area 51 employee, who like he got fired one day because he like one he would take his friends up to go see the test flights of these different craft that they were working on, but
Uh-huh.
number two, the reason he got fired just out of the blue was because his wife had an affair with her flying instructor, and they had his phones tapped. And so, like for the government, like when you're like basically like he didn't know at the time, um, but for the
Mm-hmm.
government, like if there's any situation that seems like it could cause you to become unstable, like you're gone. Like when you're dealing with
Yeah.
information that
No,
classified.
that makes sense.
And
Mm-hmm.
so he went public with his story back in like the 80s, and I think he has one of the most compelling stories. And the reason he went public is because he was scared for his life. Like he thought something was going to happen. And since then, he's actually been abused so much by the public, been called a nut so many times that he's just gone totally silent. Like you can't get him to come on a show, right? Like he doesn't want your money. He doesn't want anything. And so like, but like I know if you listen to his story, like the stuff that he was talking about, like he said like he was very compartmentalized, but he was working on a just a little like generator that he wasn't told like where it came from or anything like that, but it was
Mm-hmm.
a generator that seemed like it was able to create its own gravity, and it was powered by an element that at the time in the 80s, like they didn't know that this like this element that's like on the periodic table of elements, I can't remember which one it is, but like back in the 80s, like it was like only theoretical, like
Mm-hmm.
no one had created this before. And like so like he came out with like a lot of this stuff that like there was this device that seemed to be creating its own gravity, but the example that he used is that if you took a nuclear generator and dropped it off in Victorian times, he said like that's about how close that him and his partner got to figuring out what this thing we're doing. And like he also talked like I know like there's other things like where he said like this element that they had that they had discovered or whatever that they had like they had a stable isotope of it, like at the time it didn't exist. And he came out and said, hey, there's this element that exists, and the whole scientific community was like, it doesn't exist. And then a few years later they were able to create like an unstable isotope of it in a lab for
Yeah.
like a few seconds. And so
Mm-hmm.
like it's like I think there's a lot of compelling stuff like that. And there's also the former, I think like one of the presidents or CEOs of Lockheed Martin, like he has a confession tape on his deathbed, which again the way that people write this one off is by saying he was old and senile, so he
Uh-huh.
didn't know what he's talking about. But that confession tape is also just really, it's like really interesting. Like he talks about like all the different kinds of crafts that like the government's discovered, and he's like, hey, like a small group of people is never going to figure this out. We need to get the whole world working on this. Like I urge like the U.S. government to release this stuff. I don't know. I
Well,
just think there's a lot of cool,
again,
compelling
like
evidence out there.
I agree. It's certainly possible there are UFOs. I think that again, if they do exist, they're in a different class than we are as a species. And by different class, they can probably harness like tens of thousands of times more energy than we can. Um, and so they would totally outclass us, and we'd be totally at their mercy is the point. So one, two, it's really unlikely because if there were large scale societies out there, we would see them. They'd have like a Dyson sphere or something like that, right? Societies that could travel interstellar distances they'd have a significant impact, right? They'd have a significant impact on their surroundings and on their like the solar systems they were in. Three, it would have to come from very close by because distant stars are just too distant for any known means of transport. And I don't mean like any known means by like human methods. I mean like any known means by like physical possibility. I'm kind of discounting the idea of a warp drive here because I don't think that's feasible by any species at any point. There are some different really weird ideas out there. But like it's not a matter of human technology. You could get to 0.5 times the speed of light without with whatever technology. But you can't get too much faster than that, right? Just because like you can't go faster than light speed. You just can't. It doesn't work. And so quick interstellar travel just is not really a possibility by the laws of physics as we know them, and we know those pretty well. So like any species that wanted to come to Earth would have to come to Earth for a very good reason. It would take a huge investment, and they'd have to be incredibly powerful and also incredibly close, and we would have to also have not noticed them yet. Like in the night sky would have to not notice them. And so all of these things together, while I believe that there's probably extraterrestrial life somewhere, makes it really unlikely that they're here. Like just from a physics, like understanding the universe perspective. The other thing is, when you think about life, I don't know that evolving to the degree that you can travel across interstellar space is a very likely adaptation. You know what I mean? Like that requires a certain, how do I put this? If you're smart enough to survive like humans survive, and kind of do what humans do, you're not going to get much smarter because you've already won the evolutionary battle. Does that make sense? So like humans aren't really going to evolve much more and get like 10 times smarter than we are now. And suddenly, we just like, maybe we become like computer-like and are able to really think really quickly or something. Like it's just not going to happen because there's no pressure for us to do that evolutionarily. Right? Because nothing's going to be able to threaten us in the immediate future, right? To the point of extinction where we're going to have to change or die, that's what kind of evolution takes, right? The more pressure you have, the more quickly you evolve, right? And so like, it just seems to me that just like, it seems really unlikely that we would find a super advanced civilization before we found like microbes. You know what I mean? And there's this thing called the Fermi paradox, which basically says, okay, well, look, there's got to be millions of civilizations out there. Where are they? And the only conclusion is that like there aren't millions of civilizations out there. And so the universe is so big and there must only be a few of them because otherwise they would grow to such a massive size that they'd be obviously detectable by anyone with half a brain. And so like, right, I mean, we just don't see Dyson spheres floating around out there, like, massive interstellar spacecraft zooming along and letting off weird energy signatures or something, right? We just don't see that. And we would see that unless they were trying to hide themselves, which I don't know why they would, because they'd be so powerful if they could just smush us in their sleep. So like, what I'm trying to say here is I find it really implausible that an interstellar species would come to Earth and try to hide themselves from us.